Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about my journey into the Sony ecosystem and the reason why I had to return my a7R III. Before we dive into the negatives and the reason why I returned my a7R III, I think it's important we discuss where I first begun in the Sony ecosystem. In around 2011, I was undertaking this interior design course. As part of this course, we had to take photos of the models, of our mood boards, and of site visits. And for this, I needed a camera that had pretty decent specs. Sadly, my old Canon, I think it was a 100D or 110D or something like that I got in 2008, I had broken the mirror. So I was in the market for a new camera. At this point in time, I was an amateur. I'd had experience with Canon and I knew nothing about mirrorless, but the salesman really sold the benefits of mirrorless to me. That was enough for me to pick up the Sony, I think it was A55 or A65. Through purchasing this camera, my passion that was originally started with the EOS 100D, I believe it was reignited and my journey began again in 2011. Following the interior design course and the purchase of my first Sony, I got rather bogged down in university studies as I've been studying architecture since 2014 and I'm still not finished. But in 2017, as part of one of my last units in the Bachelor of Design, I was able to do an elective unit that was heavily into photography. For this, I needed a new camera as I had previously sold the Sony that I got in 2011. I scoured Facebook Marketplace and Gumtree, and I eventually stumbled across this tiny little body called the Nex 7. It was a pretty incredible price of only $400 and included the kit lens, I believe it was the 18 to 55. Had stabilization and the zoom range was pretC decent on an APS-C size sensor. The thing I loved most about this camera was its small form factor, but its incredible features that were managed to be packed in. Compared to the later A6000 line where they introduced a mode dial on top along with the adjustment dial, the Nex 7 had two adjustment dials and the control dial on the back. This gives you three features. You can control the ISO, the aperture, and the shutter speed all at once without diving into any menus. This is an amazing time saver and was incredible on shoots. In my opinion, the Nex 7 has everything you need as an amateur photographer, but there was one feature that I felt was lacking, and that was in the video department. The codec wasn't perhaps the best, and I really wish it had 4K or 1080 120 frames. Due to this perhaps lackluster feature, I was in the market for a new camera, and this is when my favourite camera, for the price, jumped out at me, the Sony a6300. I'd been in the market and interested in a 4K capable camera for quite some time, as my partner actually runs a YouTube channel and wanted to up her quality. This was a long time ago and before any thoughts of my own channel. So we got the a6300 that could shoot 4K, and the lack of in-body image stabilization was not an issue, as we had the 28 to 70mm which has optical steady shot. This is an amazing feature and the lens was very cheap. I picked it up for 180 AUD. And at the time of recording, this lens currently sells for 299 Australian dollars, which in my opinion is a bargain. You get a very versatile focal range, it's very lightweight, you get nice zoom rings. Fair enough, the casing is plastic, but the mounting point is metal and the quality is rather decent. There are a lot of Canon lenses that are actually plastic, even some of the L lenses. So as I mentioned, the a6300 was amazing at elevating my partner's YouTube content. We got her up to 20,000 subscribers from around 4,000. Not only was the camera amazing for YouTube applications, but it also helped me grow in many ways as a photographer and filmmaker. It was amazing for portraits. Now, as amazing as this camera was and still is, I actually did kind of fall victim to online reviews and marketing and the full frame hype. So because of this, I decided looking into the A7 II, perhaps the A7R II, and then eventually the A7R III. The a6300 is a timeless camera, I believe. If you can live with the limitations such as the lack of IBIS, it is very good value for money. Sadly, it seems like a lot of people are actually aware of this hidden gem. Every time I go on Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree looking to pick one up for myself, as I often reminisce, I can't find any, and the ones I do, they're $900. But if the right price came up, I would buy one in a heartbeat. Following my ownership of these three other Sony cameras, the Sony bug had definitely bitten me. But I was wanting to dive into the full frame world, and 42 megapixels was just so alluring. Plus the option of 4K video with IBIS. I just couldn't pass it up. I knew I had to dive straight in. Unfortunately, with everything going for this camera, about 6 months into my ownership journey, I started to run into some issues in terms of video autofocus performance. Initially, I put it down to user error as I was quite the amateur at this point in time. And then I thought maybe it was third-party lenses or the adapter. But eventually I built up my Sony first-party lens collection, and I tried it with the 85 f1.8 and the 28 f2. Both of these lenses are reportedly quite decent for video autofocus. Unfortunately, even with both of these first-party Sony lenses, the issues persisted. Throughout all the videos I recorded after this issue introduced itself, there was some back and forth hunting which really highlighted issues with the autofocus system. This was a devastating development as I primarily purchased this camera for its 4K video capabilities. Initially I thought this was an issue constrained just to my body. I started watching these YouTube reviews. These reviews weren't centered towards complaining about this issue, it was just a broad review. But I noticed in a lot of videos there was this same hunting back and forth with the autofocus in video, and it occurred with many different people, many different bodies and multiple lenses. It was at this point that I realized that perhaps the issue is more widespread. Let's take a look at this clip from Maddie's review.
Is going to be really expensive, and I actually ended up buying a new PC to handle the 4K on this camera.
Let's slow it down a bit.
It is going to be really expensive, and I actually ended up buying a new PC to handle the 4K on this camera.
Alright, just one more time.
I really just wish that every single video camera, every single DSLR...
Right there, the hunting is insane. Even in a professional filmmaker's review, it's still present. What does that tell you? Unfortunately, I'm not sure if this stems from a hardware or software issue, but unfortunately there's been no word from Sony, so I'm led to believe there's not going to be a firmware update to fix this issue, and because of that, I'm hesitant to pick the camera up again. Hopefully Sony can address this issue in the very near future, as their A7 III and A7R III are very compelling cameras with a unique feature set. And until then, thank you guys so much for watching my second video, and remember, stay focused.